Essex libraries are the heart of your community. That's what you'll find written on the front of our library cards, and it's something I've had in my mind when I was thinking about what to say on this motion regarding the potential library closures by Essex County Council that will affect libraries here in Harlow and across Essex. It felt important for me to propose this motion today to try and help save these hearts of our communities. For people I've been recently elected to represent, but also for sentimental reasons myself and personal experiences that I wouldn't have been able to have were it for these potential closures to happen earlier on in my life. Growing up in a low-income, single-parent working family, the libraries were a place that my sister and I could go after school to take advantage of the free activities and homework clubs that they had to offer. Knowing we were safe and being looked out for by a group of amazing library staff, my mum was able to complete her working day without having to worry about where we were or having to pay for expensive childcare costs. In the school holidays, I would often complete the library reading challenges, and I know that from an early age, access to the library services and a wide range of books that I could read for free definitely developed my love for reading, which then encouraged me to go on to study and get a degree in English literature. I know I'm not the only one with personal and positive experiences that I can take away from the library services. From baby and toddler rhyme times to reading groups, chess clubs, drop-in advice sessions, knitting clubs, the list goes on and on. Our libraries are a vital hub for free activities that can often help with isolation and encourage people to get out of the house. I would just quickly like to thank Emma, a local Harlow resident and new mum, who in light of the news about the closures has set up social media pages to let people in the town know what is going on at their libraries, which I hope becomes a vital source for the library closures townwide if they don't end up going ahead. Not only does the library offer books and free groups, they're also a lifeline for people who may not have access to the internet at home, whether it be to search for jobs, do their online banking, apply for benefits, or just keep in contact with family members who may live far away. With all that in mind, I'd also like to say that one of the few places, or maybe the only place in our high streets and shopping areas, where residents can go to socialise, meet new people, or even just exist without having to spend any money at all, which is crucial now, especially in these times of devastating austerity. I'm proud to see Harlow Labour and our parliamentary candidate Laura fronting the campaign to help save the libraries in Harlow, and it's been amazing to see the different activism of library users within the Save Our Libraries Essex campaign to help try and fight these closures. Even the other weekend, a brilliant demonstration was held outside the Great Carndon Library, where Harlow's Essex County Councillors were due to hold a surgery. They didn't even manage to show up, which makes it clear that these so-called representatives of our town aren't willing to be held to account when it comes to these heartless closures across the county. So I just want to finish on this. I'd welcome any Tory councillors and Harlow's MP Robert Halford to join Harlow Labour's campaign to save the town's libraries and to stand up against these devastating cuts that are being caused by fellow party councillors sitting on Essex County Council. And if any of our elected representatives fail to see how these community hubs provide a vital service to the people living in the town, they need to take a long, hard think and reconsider whether they're cut out to be a representative of our community. So please support this motion this evening and show solidarity with those whose libraries are an important part of their day-to-day life. And as I said before, even a lifeline, I move this motion.
We do now have an amendment from proposer is Andrew, and seconder is John.
Thank you, Chair. And can I start by welcoming Councillor Jezza and congratulating her on a motion on her first night. That's far more than I managed all those years ago on my first night, so congratulations. And I've got to say, I agree with the basis of the motion, and that's why we're moving a positive amendment to support this motion. Let it not be said by anyone, and I know it has been said by people around this town, people on the left of politics, that Harlow Tories are actually in favour of closure of libraries. That's just not true. And I would point everyone to the rather scathing review that Robert Halford MP gave in the House of Commons to this proposal. Libraries are an important part of life, and I think Councillor Jezza has highlighted that. And I too have very fond memories, particularly of the Town Centre Library as a child. What I do recognise, though, Chair, is that although I love libraries, it's actually been some years since I've actually been in one. And I think that does mean that there do need to be some changes to the libraries. I'm maybe going off track a little bit here, but I think libraries do need to move with the times and produce an offer that is attractive to all potential users. Maybe something a bit more than they're offering at the moment. However, to move on with the amendment, I often believe it's not just the best thing to stand and wave a placard and object to something, but to offer constructive and helpful suggestions on how we can work as partners with people like the County Council to achieve our common aims. And this obviously, I think, is the aim of both sides of the chamber, to make sure that these proposals, which are currently out for consultation, do not come to fruition, and that we save and keep libraries in this town. So what we've done here is attempted to put together just some ideas that could be added to this letter that's going to be sent to the County Council, to suggest how Harlow Council can help, and to suggest, as part of their consultation, things that they may not have considered, like talking about cross-county solutions. For those of us in Harlow, Hertford is not very far away, and it would not be silly to think about those cross-county solutions. We need to be talking to the county about how we can share the use of buildings. When we signed that memorandum of understanding that's up on the wall over there, between Epping Forest and between Utterswick District Council, we were already talking years ago, across both colours of political parties, how we could share facilities between councils. And sharing between the district council and the county council is no different. In fact, I believe one of the buildings that's in question is actually owned by this council, but rented by this council. There are plenty of opportunities for this council to help, to open dialogue with the county council. And rather than just waving a placard in the county space, which may indeed cause a reaction that you do not want, it may be better to open that dialogue with the county council and to make sure that we try and help secure these facilities for our town. Indeed, and there may even be some ways of making financial contributions, whether that be direct finance or whether that be, as I say, by buildings, via land swaps, by the ability to use buildings that we already have in our portfolio. And I think Councillor Charles will speak in a minute about the excitement around potential independent public service mutuals, which have been proven to work in other areas. I think, Chair, I want to leave you with the thought that this is Harlow Conservatives trying to be, in the spirit that you spoke of in the opening of this meeting, trying to be helpful, trying to be open, trying to show goodwill to all men, welcoming the motion, but also seeking to improve it and to get colleagues at county to listen to that. I'll add one final point, Chair, and that's something that I haven't included in the amendment because I wasn't sure how it would be taken. But if you want the County Council to listen, it may be better to not just have the leader of the council right, but to show cross-party support on this issue and to have both leaders, the leader of the council and the leader of the opposition, right to the leader of council. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, I wonder if Councillor Johnson could actually read the amendment, because I'm conscious of being webcast and people may not be aware.
The amendment to the Libraries motion proposed by Councillor Andrew Johnson and seconded by Councillor Joel Charles. To insert words so that the motion reads, this council joins Robert Halpin MP in being concerned by Essex County Council's consultation on plans to close public libraries in Harlow. Libraries are vital to promoting literacy and fostering a love of reading amongst all people. They are used by preschool children taking their first steps towards reading, those at the other end of the school journey, and by young adults studying for their exams. Libraries also provide essential services for the least well-off in society, providing computer access to people looking for jobs and accommodation, completing universal credit forms, and for those filling out online school admission applications. This council believes that library closures run counter to the county's health and wellbeing agenda, and therefore requests that the leader of the council writes to the county council, urging it to keep all of Harlow's libraries open, and offers Harlow Council's support and advice to achieve this by investigate grouping all affected libraries together as part of a county-wide independent public service mutual, supported by an anchor revenue generator to ensure the sustainability of this type of model, suggesting a cross-county solution for districts on the Hertfordshire border, opening talks about the shared use of district council facilities, work to secure local assurances about maintaining ongoing access to the county-wide library management system, and offering financial contributions, including support to deliver alternative revenue propositions and the potential for the co-location of services.
Councillor Charles. else? Do you want to?
Shall I reserve my right to speak? Thanks.
Councillor Danvers.
Well, Chair, I have no intention of throwing in the towel at this early stage. We simply need to keep our libraries open. It was very apparent when we went to the public consultation that the Vice Chair was already prepared to throw in the towel at the meeting, talking about his intentions for Great Parliament. In fact, it was such an important issue for the 4 county councils that represent us, although to his credit, my guardian was only Clive Souter. The other 2 county councillors absented themselves, as one of them still absents himself tonight. In fact, the same one, Councillor Eddie Johnson, who absented himself.
Well, not have that from Councillor Danvers.
Let me go on, Chair.
Councillor Danvers.
Sorry.
He does know why Councillor Johnson.
I can tell you why Councillor Johnson is. Councillor Johnson already had an issue tonight representing the county council of which he is the vice chairman at a civic event across the other side of the county, and it was this council which chose to move this meeting to a date that he wasn't able to make. I think it's ridiculous that Councillor Danvers keeps having a go at Eddie just because he's representing the county council.
Okay, what did I say when we started off this evening?
Exactly.
Right,
I'm not
okay.
going to repeat it. That sort of language has no place in this chamber.
We do not want
That sort of attitude from Councillor Danvers has no place in this chamber.
Councillor Johnson, I have raised my voice to you.
Okay, right. Now I'm in charge of this now. And we've had an explanation which we didn't really need anyway of why Councillor Johnson's not here. So that was not a very good attitude to have. Now, we're going to calm down and we're going to start again on both sides. Okay? This is a council meeting. It is not a free for all. Okay. So, Councillor Danvers, have you finished your comment?
No, I've already just
Right, so can you please...
I do use, unlike Councillor Johnson, I hope he doesn't take you personally because it's just what he said, I do use the library quite regularly. And in fact, the other thing I use the library for at the Stowe is in fact for our own monthly surgery, where we see the computers always being used in that Stowe library. We see children actually leading their parents into that library because of the arrangements with the school. We see elderly people coming in, also not just to change their books, to have a chat. It's very much a social hub indeed. And the idea that it should actually be closed. Why are these libraries being closed up and down Essex? For the want of £1 million out of a budget of £13 million in the library budget.
Right, we're discussing the amendment, not...
And in those circumstances, I did preface my remarks by saying I don't want to throw in the towel at this early stage. We need to actually make sure that we keep our libraries open, and therefore, in terms of the amendment, I don't think it's appropriate at this stage. If they continue on this path, perhaps we'll have to, by the autumn, think of that. And to actually associate our MP, who's continually voted in Parliament to withdraw funding from local authorities year on year on year, the hypocrisy of the double standards of our MP doing one thing in Parliament and yet again actually then advocating something else. It's always what he's doing. He actually wants to be on every bandwagon that's going. But when he votes in Parliament, he votes for something very different. So I'm not clear where the county councillors are coming from. I hope they reveal their hand tonight, because it represents 25% of the Conservative group. And in those circumstances, will they be voting against this when it comes up in January and February at the county council meeting?
Councillor Toneyburn.
Thank you very much, and I'm speaking to the amendment. It's disappointing that we've received this amendment, because this is a serious and significant motion, and it does appear to have been watered down by nothing more than a self-congratulation opportunity for our MP. And to Robert's credit, he doesn't need any more publicity. He's doing a great job doing that, promoting himself over this issue. But let's not forget this amendment that has been attached to this motion is very simple. It's actually about a Tory cut. It's a Tory cut made by a Tory-controlled county council. That Tory county council has had to make that Tory cut because of the Tory government, as Mike Danvers has actually said quite elegantly about those particular issues. So we know this government is hell-bent on destroying local services. And for us to now stand together and somehow congratulate our accountable, electable MP to saying, well done, is simply not acceptable. He is the ambassador of this government, and he has to stand and take responsibility and accountability for that. Looking at the amendment itself, certainly the second part of it gives me absolute fear, because when we start talking about independent public service mutuals, that brings back to me what this government has done to the National Health Service by claiming that we're bringing in non-for-profit organisations which squeezes and destroys services. It also brings fear to me because this is the start of what has happened in education as well, where education is being privatised by companies and other services. And then we want to work in partnership with Hertfordshire, who are already closing their libraries at the same time. So where would we find that mutuality? I don't know. This amendment that needs to be rejected appears to be a panic measure by the Tories to show that they care. And they don't. And why should we pretend otherwise? It's about standing together, about rejecting this amendment and working, as we say, in common endeavour. Express our collective concerns, which I do support Andrew with. Regardless of politics, I agree with Andrew with that. But we should stand as a community, as political people, with one united voice. If we believe in our community, if we believe in our services, then we should believe in our libraries and the services they protect. So please, let's forget this and drop the amendment, and let's get on to the real debate, which is about protecting and supporting vital local services. Thank you very much.
Councillor Harlow.
I just want to speak to the amendment on a couple of points very quickly. Firstly, to reiterate what's been said, but it would be absolutely crazy for us to support an amendment which suggests we would make a financial contribution to the county council, which has its budgets cut by the central government. I mean, that's just crazy. Secondly, to say we don't want to, as Mike said, throw in the towel, we want to save the libraries. We just want to save the libraries. We don't want a different model. We think libraries as a community service, as a service to the public, is the correct thing to have. And if you look at evidence in other countries, in Australia and the States and Canada, library use is thriving. It is growing. So what we actually need is investment in our libraries. That is what we really need. And finally, I just want to say that I support the motion as it was written, and I cannot support the amendment in any shape or form.
Councillor Charles.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Mike. What an interesting start to the debate on libraries. First of all, I have to say to the Labour group, Robert Halford, first and foremost, is an ambassador for our town in Parliament, and he stands up for Harlow. But I will have more to say in the substantive debate in a moment. What we're proposing tonight in our amendment is a fleet of options because the administration provided no solutions to actually progressing talks with Essex County Council. It's all well and good to protest about these matters, but as community leaders we are elected actually to resolve solutions and come up with solutions, work with our community to see a path forward. And I must stress tonight that this is a consultation, no decisions have been finally made yet, and actually I think the proactive approach for us as a council chamber tonight would be to support the measures that we have put forward. I think that Harlow Council is in a very strong position tonight if we work on a cross-party basis to actually negotiate with Essex County Council about the way forward in the consultation. So there are a range of options actually that have been tested across the country that we could use as a model. The first point I want to make on the amendment is the idea around a public service mutual that has been used in county councils like Devon. Their Libraries Unlimited scheme began in 2016 and is very successful. And actually a model like that, where you look at the Tier 4, as Essex County Council have defined, the 25 libraries, of which Ty Green and Mark Paul's library sit within, we could have a discussion with Essex County Council constructively about how we look at the future of our library services and the smaller libraries that make up an important part of our community. What I would also say is this: all the Conservatives on this bench support our libraries. We stand up for our libraries, and tonight you will hear in the substantive motion our views on it. We don't need the Labour Party to articulate how we feel about our community assets in this community. I think it's quite wrong, the members opposite, to suggest that we don't believe in actually standing up for our libraries, because they are an important community asset. The other point I would make is this: the party opposite are in administration. You've got to get out of protest mode, and you've got to start leading. You've got to start coming up with ideas. We've given you some suggestions constructively tonight to work on a cross-party basis. And if you reject them, what have we got left? We've got nothing. So actually take this argument to Essex County Council. And you have an option tonight to work on a cross-party basis. I hope you very much consider it.
Councillor Hurd.
We move into the vote.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to agree that we should, where it's necessary, work with other authorities, even for myself, to work with Conservative councillors. And of course, over the last few years, that's exactly what we have been doing. We've been working with East Herts District Council, Uttersford District Council, Epping Forest District Council, Broxbourne Council, Hertfordshire County Council and Essex County Council, and the government to produce a local plan. There's only one small group of people who weren't prepared to cooperate at all with that joint working, and in fact insisted on having a recorded vote, and that's the people sitting opposite. They're not interested in working with us. What they're interested in is cover up the fact that the Tories are going to close libraries.
Okay, Councillor Ingle.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to pick up on a couple of points. I'll be very quick. Councillor Charles says no decisions have been made. This is a consultation. I attended one of the consultation events. There were nobody there from the Conservative side. And it was made very, very clear by Councillor Barker that with regard to two of our libraries, the decision was made. They were closing. Consultation or otherwise. Councillor Charles say we are the administration. We are the administration for Harlow. These libraries are run and administered and paid for by Essex. We are the opposition. We protest at Essex's cuts because you won't. You say we offer no solutions. Here's my solution. Essex are taking at least the same money next year from the council tax that we levy as they did this year. So my solution is spend the money that you spent on the libraries last year, next year, and keep them open. It's a very neat solution that encompasses everything that's needed. Let's keep our libraries open. Let's stop the cuts. Thank you.
Janet, do you want to sum up on this one? No. Okay, I think we'll come to the vote now. Those in favour of this amendment, raise their hands, please. Those against? Right, so that amendment is lodged. We now come back.
Chair, can I move an amendment to the motion, please?
Okay.
I'll second it.
Well, we need to know what
The amendment reads after the last paragraph and offers the opportunity to the Leader of the Opposition to sign this letter. I second that.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. No, so who agrees on that amendment? No, that's been agreed. Okay. So we now come back to the substantiation. Right. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chairperson. I strongly condemn the decision by the Conservative Essex County Council to consider.
Councillor Dunn is chair, not chairperson.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Chair. Good start. I strongly condemn the decision by the Conservative-run Essex County Council to consider closing these libraries. I actually wrote down 2 of our libraries, but in the time since I've written this down, another one has been added to the list. The decision to consider closing these libraries, I think, is an act of cultural vandalism and an indication that the government's protestation that austerity is over is a hollow half-truth. Libraries are about more than just books. There are community hubs, neutral venues for mental health groups to meet their clients, places for other than gravy groups to have to meet, and places for our unemployed to train to get back into the workforce. Once again, we see the Tories taking away from the poorest and most vulnerable in our society, and this decision is yet more proof of the country, a council and national government and a party that knows the price of everything but the value of nothing. And just one more thing about protesting, not achieving anything. It is 100 years since women got the vote. I had a placard waiver. I haven't got it with me today, but I guess it's enough to do. Thank you.
Charles, you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. Now I want to speak on the substantive motion. Look, I want to take this opportunity first of all to say how much I value the library service in this town. As a youngster, I would attend Old Harlow Library to do my studies, and it was an important, useful facility, community facility for me when I was studying for my degree. And coming back at term time to actually access the library and find a quiet space in Old Harlow. So I actually welcome parts of the Essex County Council consultation, particularly around Old Harlow, and casting it a Tier 2 library. It is well used. Lots of people, particularly our ageing population in Old Harlow, use that library. It is an important community facility. I want to talk more widely, though, about some of the aspects of Essex County Council's consultation. There are elements of it that I do support. I think it is right for the County Council to look at a 24/7 online service. I think that's something that we can all agree with. And I also think it is important to take into consideration what public services must do in times gone by and times now in the future. They need to adapt. They need to adapt to the changing behaviours of society and put that offer to people that is attractive. We all have to do that in life, even if we're a public service or a private sector organisation. And that approach is really important when you're trying to engage with communities. I think we must also share a positive ambition for the library service in Harlow. And we need to make that case to Essex County Council, loud and vocally. As I said earlier, and as Andrew has said very clearly, the Conservatives here are concerned about this matter, and we are in close dialogue with our colleagues at Essex County Council about the way forward. And we were hoping tonight to see cross-party consensus, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's also important to recognise what the library service does for young families, particularly children learning to read. Actually, the libraries are a gateway for young people to pick up their reading speed, actually open the world of fiction, history, and learn about their wider community and the wider history of their town. And that's something that's always been important about our local library service. It's also an important community facility for older people. One of the big issues in our society at the moment is loneliness, and I know it affects young and older people, but actually the library service is a gateway for people to have a sense of community. And I think that Essex County Council will take that very seriously as they progress this consultation. One of the frustrating elements of this debate It's actually the legislation. Now, local authorities are governed, because it is a statutory service, libraries, by the Libraries and Public Museums Act of 1964. And within that Act, it says this: to provide a comprehensive and efficient library service for all persons. One of the frustrations of that Act historically has been that it doesn't define the geographical space upon which a library should sit. And actually the catchment area is really important in this debate, because I notice in the consultation some of the rationale that Essex County Council has given for its views on the Tier 4 categorisation of libraries. I think Mark Hall and Ty Green libraries are important community assets, and I can't say that loud enough from the Conservative group. In fact, the 25 libraries that have been categorised as Tier 4, I have to say that as a community we need to be very vocal about how we can approach this consultation and actually put constructive solutions to deal with some of the issues that have been brought up in this debate. We tried tonight to put forward a range of practical solutions that could begin the conversation with Essex County Council. Public service mutuals are a mechanism widely used across the country. There's something that we could have a constructive and detailed conversation with Essex. Equally, I think it's incumbent upon Harlow Council as a community leader to engage with Essex County Council and not just put a placard up saying you're disappointed by the decision. We are community leaders. The administration tonight is negating its responsibility as a community leader by just going on a protest march and not actually entering into dialogue with Essex County Council. Now, our Member of Parliament has been very clear about his opposition to this consultation.
Okay, you've got
He's been
15
loud
seconds.
and clear with the wider community through his speeches in Parliament that this situation needs to change. I hope tonight we can get back to a cross-party conversation and look forward to defending our libraries constructively.
Okay, thank you. Tony Durkin.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity now to speak to the substantive motion. And can I, first of all, congratulate Giles Charles, because actually a lot of what he was saying in most of that debate was actually very profound and very correct. It is about accessing the most vulnerable people in our society, those that are lonely, people with mental health and other issues, and we should not lose sight of that. I don't want to sound too creepy, but as it's Christmas, could I also welcome the comments made, or some of the comments made by Andrew Johnson, around what is the purpose and function of a building that is called a library. Because it should be a learning environment, it should be for art, leisure, pleasure and access. And I think sometimes libraries are perceived as quite sterile areas that they only have one main function. So I do agree that there should be an opportunity for us to revisit in a collective way to try to re-energise those. And the reason I'm saying that is that a few years ago, both myself and Councillor Johnson had the pleasure of working with many colleagues in Europe under the European New Towns platform. And some of the projects that were funded through the Interreg were around community engagement. And in most European cities and towns that we went to and had a look at them, the library was in the heart of what they were talking around engagement. Now I know that Europe at the moment is a toxic subject, but I really do think that we should not be throwing everything out at the same time, and we should look as wide as we possibly can to find these solutions. And Harlow is good at solutions, and we don't need lectures from anybody. Look what we did when the Tories decided to turn the lights on. Look what they did when they cut the policing. We found local solutions that what our community wanted over these issues. So I do agree that with this motion, I think we need to set the amendment clear. I'm delighted with the amendment that it will be a collective rather than just the administration. And together, we need to go to County Council and say, step back from this decision, let's get into relationships, let's get into partnership, and let's get a long-term solution for something that we treasure and we love, which is our local libraries. Thank you very much.
Councillor Tony Edwards.
First of all, I just want to sort of look a bit at some of the stuff that's said in the consultation document. First thing is we've got a period of consultation, but in terms of responses to the consultation, they're only being accepted if you put your comments online. I went to a debate, I met with the library staff the other day. I did a number of other people, and were told that they had to put any comments had to be made online. So what does the consultation paper say? It says, on the one hand, it alludes to a saving of £2 million. If the tier 3 and tier 3 and tier 4 proposals go ahead. On the other hand, when I was at County Hall, the officers and the chair of the committee was saying that this wasn't a financially driven agenda. Well, if it's not a financially driven agenda, then what is it? They're looking to save £2 million out of a £12 million budget. It uses as a rationale, it says that library usage in terms of loans is going down. Well, there's certainly evidence of that. But it also says we do not have a full picture of library users. We do not have any data about the customers using their needs without making so we do not have any data about customers using their needs, transactions, people studying, attending events, making friends, attending clubs. They don't have any data around that in terms of the way that those libraries are used. And in fact, the data that they are using relates to active users. And by active users, that means you have a library card. That's all it means. But a lot of people we know go in and out of libraries and use libraries in all sorts of ways. The other thing they say is that Essex is slightly overrepresented in the number of people that it has per thousand population in relation to national figures in terms of its library usage. In Harlow we have approximately one library to approximately 17,500 people as it stands at the moment. If these proposals go through, we'll have one library to every 45,000 people. That's the scale of the impact of the cuts in Harlow. So, what other bit of information do we have as far as Harlow is concerned? Harlow Town Centre has 6,700 active users. Great Parndon, 2,000 active users. Ty Green, 1,800. Old Harlow, 1,730 active users. But what's fascinating about that was I then looked at the figures in relation to the populations that use it. Mark Hall, 55% of the people that are the active users are under the age of 19. Ty Green is 65% under the age of 19. Great Parndon, 44%. Old Harlow, 49%. So we've got this, a lot of use of the people that are using it, each young people. So, and those are the people that we want to encourage, I presume, because we always go on in terms of Harlow about literacy and numeracy. Yeah, okay, literacy and numeracy. We talk about literacy and numeracy, encouraging literacy and numeracy. Then we moved on to the indicators of deprivation. They say deprivation is a key driver. What they then go on, if you then look at, I just remind ourselves that in terms of child poverty, Bushfarers, 24% of people on child poverty, Stapletide, 29%, Markhall, 30%.
Can you start winding down?
I am. Old Harlow, 14.8%. Yeah, Old Harlow is a tier 2 library, and the others are tier 3 and tier 4 libraries. And why is that? It's because of the quirk around the 2-mile rule. Old Harlow Library is 2.3 miles away from the next nearest library, and because of that quirk, Old Harlow Library.
The reduction of premises and the encouraging offender managers to get their offenders and take them to the libraries and do the work in the libraries. You know, and a similar thing happened in a lot of the legislations that went round about that time. So I'm a bit confused as to where, you know, where they'll be going to do the work, to sit and do computer work, to do CV work, to do things like that. So I just mention that because that was quite a big thing for me, a concern at the time. The other thing is, the libraries are very much a hub, and I'm concerned about people with hidden disabilities, you know, getting to a library that happens to be more than 2 miles away. But also, you know, can they afford the bus fare to come to the town centre? You know, we're talking about staple time where there are high levels of neglect. Children, you know, on child protection plans, lack of poverty. And Andrew, I was quite interested when you said, you know, I haven't been in the library for years. Well, you know, actually, we're quite privileged. A lot of the families in Harlow that I've dealt with in the past, in a previous role, are not that privileged. They haven't got Wi-Fi, they haven't got computers, they're having to go to the library to sign up for universal credit. So actually, we need to remember that a vast majority of our residents in Harlow are not as privileged as some of the people sitting in this room today. So, and in terms of disability and vulnerability, I just mentioned when we bang things about, it really hurts. And actually, we have vulnerable people in our gallery today, and we need to be very aware of that. And I just wanted to make that last point. Thank you.
Councillor Garnett?
We actually, apart from the old one, we seem to have quite a lot of consensus here tonight. We're singing from the same song sheet. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of points, really. Nobody in this side of the chamber wants to see any libraries closed. So there is no ambiguity in this statement. We do not wish to read in next Thursday's Socialist Worker that members of the Conservative group are in favour of closing libraries. Read my lips. We do not want any libraries to close. However, as custodians of the public purse, Essex County Council or any other council has from time to time to look at the services it provides and to see if there's a better way of using taxpayers' money. That is a responsibility, be it Essex County Council or Harlow District Council. The libraries in Harlow suffer from lack of use, be it lending books or computer use or any other use they are put to. Over the last 10 years, the Stow's footfall has gone from over 51,000, you're telling me it's going up, everything's going up, they're going down, to, that's in 2007, to 18,000 in 2017. That's almost 2/3 of uses lost for whatever reason. We, and I mean we, need to look at how best we can maintain the services we currently have and to make it fit for future use, either through investment from the District Council or bringing community involvement in some way, some other viable scheme. Why should local people not be empowered to run them according to local requirements? Just a thought perhaps, instead of spending 650,000 on unwanted splashboards, spend some of the new homes bonus on library service. The Stowe building is owned by Harlow District Council and cost Essex County Council £16,000 per year in rent and rates. Why not put the building into a community trust with local people running the service with their own volunteers? All the books will be donated by Essex County Council and other services required can be negotiated. The time has come to stop waving placards and shouting insults. Let us pull together and resolve this problem. Finally, remember this is a consultation exercise, not a done deal.
Councillor Mike Danvers.
Thank you, Chair. Just to answer a few of those points that Councillor Garnett said. 2007, the Stowe Library was actually open 6 days a week. Look at it's open now, so if you actually halve the 50% opening time, it's not a surprise that that's the case. The other point, Chair, is that it's designated as a Tier 4 library. And when Sue Parker was actually asked about this, she said that there would be no books for Tier 4 libraries. That was the style of fair. Sue Parker also said a number of other things recently, quoted only a few days ago in the Housestead Gazette. Mrs. Parker said, "It's unfortunate that it's been so negative." That's the opposition, even amongst the Conservatives, that she's had to face. People are asking lots of questions. What I want is people to respond to the consultation. I don't need people to sign petitions. That's why we're not putting petitions in libraries. Doing a petition just says no. We don't want people to just say no. But then it goes on a bit further on. The actual reporter actually challenges Mr. Parker about the Uttlesford Council meeting that she attended, where Uttlesford Council had a resolution opposing the closure of their libraries. Mrs. Parker admitted that she had attended the Uttlesford Council meeting and had voted in favour of the motion to save libraries in Thaxted and Stansted. If it wasn't so pathetic.
Councillor Harvey and then Councillor.
I just want to say, Councillor Garnett, when I said library usage was going up, I was talking about in the US where there has been investment. I didn't mean in our areas. And I also wanted to just make the point, my colleague, Tony, Councillor Edward, talked about the numbers of usage, and yes, 1,700 people using a library, but if you're one of those 1,700 people and you're registering for credits or welfare or school lunches, it doesn't matter that the numbers are going down, that service is critical to you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've heard during this debate from both sides of the chamber that there is a love of libraries in this town and that no one wants to see the libraries closed. It saddens me that the Labour Group couldn't bring themselves to support the amendment. I understand why. I also understand that for a number of members opposite, any excuse to have a go at a Tory, be it an MP, be it the government, be it the county councillor, be it people standing on this side, and that's their default modus operandi. I think whatever we've said tonight, we will still hear on the street and in literature from the opposition that we want libraries to close. We don't. I can categorically say that again. And I will be more than happy to, if this motion passes tonight, as I'm sure it will, to sign a letter with Councillor Ingle, telling County Council just what I think of them. I have consistently said in this chamber, it doesn't matter whether it's an MP, a county council or another district council, just because they wear a blue rosette, I'm quite happy to criticise them if I think they are wrong. And I have publicly already made my contribution to this consultation. I do not want to see library services closed in this town. Since there have been political points made, I will just raise one item, and that's that this issue with libraries is one up and down the country. It's one that different councils face all the time. And I stand by what I said. Councillor Mason, you may have misinterpreted what I was saying. The fact that I'm fortunate enough to have my services at home and I haven't been in a library in years. I would quite like to go in a library, but I've never found the excuse because there's been nothing there I wanted to go and see. But if perhaps there was some public art on display, if there were, any sorts of exhibitions as well as the books, I would be quite happy to go and look at some of those things if they're interested. But I do want to say to the party opposite, it's not just the Conservative Party, and please don't think that just because Essex is holding this consultation, it's the evil Tories alone. Because Bolton Council, 5 libraries, this is in the last 6 years, Bradford Council, 1 library, Brent Council, 6 libraries, Flintshire, 2 libraries, Hartlepool, 2, Lambeth, 1, Leeds, 13, Lewisham, 1, Liverpool, 3, Manchester, 2, Wakefield, 2, Waltham Forest, 2, Wigan, 1. These are just examples of libraries that have been closed, and all of those councils were Labour-run councils at the time. I think that's sad that those libraries were closed. I think it would be sad if any libraries were closed around Essex as well. And that's why, despite the fact that you've played politics with our amendment tonight, you didn't want to mention Robert, you were always having a go at any Tory just because we're Tories. I will personally be voting for your motion, Councillor Jezard. I will be then signing the letter with Councillor Ingle.
Councillor Ingle and then
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Charles. You spoke about working cooperatively. You know I speak on an informal basis with the MP when it suits and benefits Harlow. And you know that our amendment invited you as the leader of the Conservatives to sign this letter, and I'm grateful that you will do so. I think that's very clear evidence of us seeking to work cooperatively. However, let me just talk about trying to work cooperatively with Essex County Council. When I met with Councillor Barker, she said these things. She spoke about our town centre library. She used an anecdote of more people using the town centre library as a shortcut than using it for a library, as a justification for shutting libraries. Interestingly, she was talking about the wrong library. The town centre one isn't due to be cut. And when I challenged her on that, she said, well, when I visited, once, when I visited, I saw somebody wheel their bike in one door and out the other door. She quickly retracted when I pointed out that as a teacher of children whose behaviour had been so bad, they were not only excluded from schools, but excluded from pupil referral units and had to be taught in the community, which meant in libraries. I spent 2 years at Harlow Town Centre Library, and I can tell you it's very well used. And there is no other facility for these children. She said, Tier 4 libraries will be shut. No consultation. We will consult, but Tier 4 libraries will be shut. She said, Councillor Garnett, that Tier 3 libraries would be offered to people. And you spoke about empowering people. I drilled down on what she meant by that. She meant Essex would provide some books to Tier 3 libraries. But the people in the community had to either buy or rent the building. They had to staff the building. They had to pay the electricity and the gas and the council tax for the building. She might as well have said Tier 3 libraries will be shut. That's 3 out of 5 libraries. And I have to say, Councillor Charles, you were right when you said Old Harlow Library is well used. Ty Green Library is used more than Old Harlow. And she also said that only online responses can be guaranteed to be heard. Which is a shame, isn't it? Because so many of our library users use libraries because they don't have broadband at home. I suppose they can go to the library to submit their online response to the library closures, but they better hurry up and do it while there's still libraries to use the online services in. Councillor Johnson, my children use Ty Green libraries. There's an equal opportunities issue here which Essex County Council are aware of. They're disproportionately used by young children, young mothers, the unemployed and the least well off. And neither you or I fall into any of those categories, which is why we don't do it. But you should go and visit libraries because they do have art exhibitions. They do. They have writers come in to talk about their writing. There's a whole host of things going on. If you would attend some of the many things that are going on, perhaps a foot forward increase. But the serious point here is, yes, the total usage has fallen, but the core group that really need the libraries are still using them. I'll give you an example. If you are a mother with children and you want to choose a school, an Essex school, you have to apply online, and if you don't have the finances for broadband, that means using a library. If you want to book school dinners for your children, you have to do it a week in advance online. Now look, I've fallen foul of that, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely, you've got 1 minute.
No problem, I'll finish in a minute. No problem for me, because I can afford to make packed lunches. I curse myself, make the packed lunch, no problem. But for the very poorest, those parents whose children are on free school meals, who don't have access to the internet, there are children that will go hungry because Essex are denying access to free broadband. Look, Councillor Garnett, you said nobody on this side wants libraries closed. I take you at your word on that. I hope the Tory Essex County councillors on that side attend that meeting and they vote against these closures. Words here are fine. Let's see you be there and voting to keep them open. Thank you.
Yeah, first I just want to start saying I'm actually quite comfortable with the dialogue from the opposition concerning protesting and, us as a group protesting, and I would like to reiterate Councillor Dunn's point that protesting has actually made not only positive but life-changing impacts to people's lives. And there is evidence, it's clear, that the libraries are being used, and if anything we need to be investing in these services. As Councillor Harvey said, in a way, I'm just marketing myself, but marketing these services so people actually know what services the libraries have to offer. So someone like Councillor Johnson can have a look and be like, oh brilliant, there's an exhibition, there's a writer I like going on. The people can actually know, and it will increase the footfall so people know that they're there to be used. I was glad to hear Councillor Mason's point about privilege, because it is true. A lot of us in this room, sitting on this council, don't have to use libraries. We can use them if we choose, but we don't have to use them. They're not a lifeline for us, and it is the vulnerable people in our society that are going to be impacted the most by these closures, as well as accessibility and people not being able to afford bus fares, and also their libraries being too far away so they can't access them if it is a lifeline. So as I said before, I do welcome the opposition's arguments for keeping the libraries, and the reasons presented is why we need to support this motion tonight. Thanks.
We will now come to the vote with the amendment about the leader and the opposition leader uniting on that letter. Okay? So those in favour of this motion, can you raise your hands, please? Okay. I think that's unanimous.